Seri! There he is. I made it. I made it in time. I can't stop boxing. What's wrong with me? Hello, Tim.
Stop looking at yourself.
I know. He's like, I'm looking good today. What did you do?
What did I say? I didn't say that.
He stood up and he goes, my legs are looking good.
It's just a good angle for them. Not really.
You can tell when he's like to work because it's this kind of expression. It's like.
But can we just make a big deal while I find my link about Amy,
Yeah.
Alexandra, Wilson, Hardy being here?
Amy Alexandra Wilson.
You also did it right, Seri.
Thank you.
I was a girl that time.
Thank you.
She's been calling me Alexander for a long
I
time.
know, she said.
But why have you
Amy
never said
Alexandra.
anything
I have.
to me?
Your voice is too loud and you don't hear my little voice.
You are between too loud or not between.
I might as well not be here, to be honest. I should go home.
No, the show, it's all about you.
No, we put a mic there, right there for you. See,
Hello.
Literally just for you.
Can I just say at the outset, I really apologize for my sweaty smell next to you. We did film Gas about 10 minutes ago. No, not 10 minutes ago. But I'm still. Are we there?
Yeah, found us.
I'm still sweating as normal.
But hello to everybody. This is it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
It is.
And it's 12:30 in South African time, and the Gas Trio is all together. Oh,
I literally, even walked in. I said before we went live, I said volume down, Greggy. It's like,
it's still, the volume's still up. Hello to everyone that's with us. I see Gugu there. I see Taryn's there. I see, who else is with us?
Alzan is with us.
Azzi. This is a little midday chat. Firstly, to say we are finally back together. Well, not back together. We've never been together.
You first met.
Yeah. Greg got a video of us first meeting.
Yeah.
I met so many people the last 2 days. My mind is just.
Amy's mind is blown because she's met so many people. In case you didn't hear it.
That's what I do. I repeat everything everyone says. I'm like, yeah, such a good point, actually, and then I just repeat the exact same thing.
And we filmed in person for the first time ever. It's so cool because normally we're on 3 screens, and we got to film on 1 screen. Amy put us through our paces, and Greg and I struggled. Just a little bit.
We don't like that word.
We didn't struggle. We overcame.
There was one point Seri was on the floor, and
there
so
we go.
she didn't go on, but she found that new level.
I did. I found the new level.
Found it. We gassed ourselves.
We did.
Gassed ourselves like you can't even believe. Coach Taryn, love the Oprah show you guys have going there.
I love this setup.
I know, it is quite good.
It is.
Good. And Chessa says bonjour. Bonjour
from France.
Gas Trio.
From France.
Chess, I miss you as my one-on-one.
Is she gone?
I had to kind of. Well, yeah, confusion all around.
Okay,
Chess, I do miss you.
We miss you.
Come on back, Chess.
Come on back.
I'm still available.
We're in our move into spring, and we thought that we would. I can't remember the hashtag now.
No, I've got it.
We thought we would talk about
spring back after a setback.
Something like that.
Spring back from a setback.
Spring back from a setback.
Yeah,
I said after.
Spring back from a setback. We thought we'd have a little family chat here in our living room, talking about springing back from a setback. And Ames and I were talking actually at the restaurant just now, where we were speaking about her. I'm not going to tell her story, but when she didn't get selected for the Olympics. And actually who the hardest person or people was that she struggled to tell, which I don't know if you've heard the story. Have you heard the story?
I think I have, but I'm not going to.
Ames, go. But you have to speak a little bit louder.
Okay, I'm working on it. Okay, I really am. I think, some of you might know because obviously we've got the UK-based group as well. We've got a WhatsApp group and a group on the club app as well. So not getting selected for anything obviously is savage. I think whether it be in sport or if it's something you're going for like a promotion or anything, like if you don't get that call up, it's heartbreaking. But what you don't realize at the time, it's almost even harder when you're telling those people that you love and care about. And I was quite open at the time. I tried to share my journey as much as I could. And the hardest people that I had to tell was my UK, at the time we just had the WhatsApp group, my UK WhatsApp group. And the reason
Jeff UK WhatsApp group.
Jeff UK WhatsApp group. And the reason was because my heart was so warm from all the support everyone gave me for so long. In the journey, like, you're gonna do it. I had an injury in the lead up for 3 months, which was really hard, and I knew it was going to be a tough call anyway. But I had that bit of hope in me that I would still get the nod. And everyone was so supportive. Every single time I posted my workout, I had my little boot on, working out, doing my burpees on one leg. And then, you're gonna do it. You're gonna get there. We know. We believe in you. And then suddenly, it got taken away. And obviously, like, telling my mum and my stepdad and my dad and everyone, like, that was heartbreaking. But I just knew they were sad for me. But telling a group of people that had been on my journey, had supported me,
and they backed you so much.
Hard. I was like, I don't know what to say. I felt this, that I was letting them down. That I suddenly, like, you have that self-doubt that you're not good enough. And it's natural to feel like that. Everyone does, but. Yeah, I just remember, like, writing that. I really clearly remember it. And then obviously the reaction was so positive and so lovely. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, we're still with you. But actually writing, I think I was, like, shaking, pressing the send button.
And talk to us about the springing back of that non-selection. Obviously, the Olympics happen. I've obviously been in a situation where I didn't go to an Olympics that I wanted to go to, and I actually couldn't watch.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Yeah, I was the same. I couldn't watch a thing, and
it's not that you didn't support the people, the team, but just, like, you have to also look after yourself.
I was messaging people, like, some of my best mates were playing, but I literally couldn't. And it was quite lucky, really, because of the time difference in Tokyo, so it meant that I was trying to sleep, but I knew what was happening. And then there's this balance, and you'll both get this, because. And you feel so selfish, but you're watching your friends do well. They were doing so well. And I was so proud, but I was so sad that I wasn't part of it. And then you feel guilty because you're like, oh, well, if they get a medal, I'm not part of that. And I want to be part of that. So I don't want them to, but I really do want them to, because they're my best mates and they're doing so well. They're representing Team GB. It's amazing. Everything we wanted them to get a medal, and everything in me was like, if they do get a medal, I'm going to be even more left out of something so special. And I think it's quite hard to admit that sometimes, because it is such a selfish mindset, but
totally natural, right?
But then when they didn't get a medal, I was so heartbroken.
Yeah.
And then suddenly that selfishness went away, and I was just like, I felt it. We came fourth in Rio, we came fourth in Tokyo, so to miss out from one place both times, and some of those girls were double Olympians at that point, so I'd done it twice. It's just, and you see that raw emotion, and even if you did watch it, the pictures pop up and everything. But I was in a dark place for a little while. I think obviously you've got to take everything from perspective, but at that point in time it does feel like the worst thing ever. But yeah, as we'll move on to, good things happen from bad situations. So,
well, tell us the good things, because
I mean, it's not all about me.
Yeah, we'll go to Greg. We'll go to Greg later. But I mean, we everyone sees me and Greg so much. Like, you're the first one in here, and also, like, it's such a cool story, and it's also, we're talking about springing back. So we've now spoken about the setback. But now let's speak about the spring back.
Yeah. So the first thing is, like, it's that reality check. So for so long, I pretended my injury was not going to set me back. It wasn't a thing. I didn't get selected just because I wasn't selected, and injury had nothing to do with it. And then so the first thing was actually being like, no, I had 3 months out when I should have been in my prime fitness preparing for Olympics. Like, I had to, like, tell myself that my injury played a part, which it did. It would with any single person, whether you were going to be first name on the team sheet or if you're fighting for a place. If you're out for 3 months, it's gonna do something. So it was that me accepting that I was allowed to use that as an excuse. And I think when I did that, and when I kind of looked at myself first, and I think that's something that I always try and do, especially after this, look at yourself first before look at other people. I realized that's okay. I was injured. I fought as hard as I could. I did everything. Gave up caffeine, like everything. Bone inhibits bone health and bone healing. So I had a stress fracture. Like, the injury itself wasn't that bad in terms of injuries.
But injury is an injury.
Timing, awful. So I did everything I possibly could in those 3 months. So I was like, I couldn't give any more. I'd done that. And then I was like, okay, well, that's not the end of the journey. I either take a step forward, and I know I've got a lot left in me to continue my career as a rugby player, or I sit back, feel sorry for myself, and I stay here. and I wasn't. There was a few people. So Team GB continued until Christmas. They decided not to contract anyone who was less than 28, I think, in terms of age. That was the decision they made. So I didn't get a contract, but I was invited in to train, got paid as I go, essentially. And I remember just having this conversation with a coach that didn't select me. I said, Scott, we had really honest conversations at the time of selection. I'm going to continue to be honest with you. One thing, I want to be back here so bad. I'm going to do everything I can to show that you made a mistake. But one thing, if a contracted player gets played ahead of me just because they're contracted, like, I'll be having words, basically. and I said that, and he was like, no, that's completely fair. And I remember the first tournament I was back, I was lucky. I got played a lot, and I was like, that was almost like the reconciliation between me and my coach. And it was like I got that respect back that I needed, and he was true to his word. Like, I would be fine if I was on the bench because I wasn't performing. Fine, that's what you have to deal with, and you have to then improve. But when you feel good, and then he rewarded me by starting me when he had like an easy excuse in a way to start the 7 contracted players. And I think then it was just like I've always said, and I always say it to young players, it's learning that enjoyment again, and it's making sure you're enjoying what you do, love what you do, which is really hard. Especially, it's easy to say in sport because we do it because we love it, but can you find in your path the things that make you happy, because that at the end of the day motivates you to move forward every day. And sometimes it's harder, some situations are harder than others, but if you get that right, then life goes forward and you can keep pushing on.
It's amazing. And everyone in life has different setbacks, right? And they all come in different forms, but I think the outcome or the perspective always has to be the same. It's like, I think you always need to look at yourself and be like, what do I need or what do I not need, essentially. But then I also think you always have to look at the bigger picture of like, well, what do I get to choose here in what I want to do. Like, you got to choose, like, through disappointment to still keep going, choose to make it right, choose to prove to yourself and others that, like, this is the journey that you're on. Like, that's a hard choice to make, because sometimes you would just want to throw it all in and say, stuff you guys, kind of thing.
But also when you choose the former, which is to keep pressing on, I also think that's equally difficult.
100%.
Because like it's way easier said than done. Like, if someone says to me, you've been injured, you lost out like on selection, and then what's your choice? Like, your choice, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, that's like, it's all so easy to say and be like, oh yeah, I looked at myself and I chose to go forward. But that's massive, because the sacrifice coming after that, the discipline, all the things that we talk about. And that's why I want to keep it with you, because I want to jump onto that when we get there. But just watching you train through injury has been like one of the best and most inspiring things I've ever seen, leading you up to where you are now. And I'm obviously, we can get emotional about it, because I'm a heart on my sleeve kind of guy. But that's exactly it. So making the choice, but then actually following through are two completely separate things, 100%. I think. And yeah, it's been monstrous to see you come back like this. It's been amazing.
Well, I mean, because we've been blessed and privileged enough to watch the whole journey unfold, right?
Yeah.
Like, and now here we're sitting, and the only reason why Amy is sitting in this room with us right now is because on Friday, in 48 hours from now, she's running onto a pitch to play in the Rugby World Cup sevens. Like, it's insane. It happens every 4 years. Like, for me, World Cups and Olympics, they're in the same boat. Like, I know they're not viewed as the same boat, but they also only come every 4 years. Like, it's pretty hectic. And that's why she's able to be sitting here with us right now. But 2 years ago, the Olympics was 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago?
Well, it's
2021.
21.
Less.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half, a year. From there, that setback to now we're running onto the pitch and going to be playing against Spain on Friday at 2 or 2:30 p.m. if you're going to tune in, is insane. Like, insane. And it's,
I'm just stubborn.
yeah, but being stubborn is good when it comes to your goals. But also, like, there's a lot. I know that dark patch. I know how easy it is to to go the other route. I think actually it is definitely the easier route to like chuck it all in, right? And then for the rest of your life, just continue with bitterness and resentment and anger, and
think what if the whole time.
Think what if the whole time, and then your whole life is kind of defined by one moment of you consistently will be bitter and anger and resentful. Whereas you and your coach now, or he's not, I know he's not the same, but you and that coach were able to talk it through. He was able to have a little bit of redemption. You were able to come to terms with the fact that you'd come back from injury, and then you're now able to succeed. Like, I just think it's quite an amazing story.
I think as well, obviously this kind of, maybe some people are listening and think, yeah, but how does this relate to me? But we've said that word, the goals, the whys, and I think it's easy to quickly dismiss them. And I know it's something we're so like passionate about here, because they are so important, and that goal or that why doesn't have to be a World Cup or Olympic Games, but it is the thing that keeps you on track. When everyone has those days, like, I love my job. I have like my dream job. I love what I do here. I love what I do in the field. But everyone gets up and
for sure
and wakes up and like, I don't like, it's pouring with it, especially in the UK. Although I was welcomed by rain. Come on. But even in the UK and even here, you wake up, it's raining, it's cold. Like, people, it's easy to look from the outside and be like, oh, it's amazing, you get to travel the world. I was like, yeah, but I also have to run until I'm sick while it's freezing cold. I can't feel my fingers. I can't feel my
There's so much
toes.
sacrifice.
And especially when you're training on your own. Some of the Wickham crew, if any of the Wickham crew are watching, they've bumped into me like when I'm doing my running on the Rye. And it is, I'm like, I've just died out there, guys. So if anyone sees me, please return me home. And it's hard. It's really hard, and it takes like a certain mindset, and that's the same with life. You do have to be a little bit stubborn, but you have to have that direction. And it could be like.
But I can actually jump in on like a completely different, like when I think of setback, I think firstly they happen all the time, right? Like we're saying, spring back from setbacks. They happen in relationships, they happen in work, they happen in sport, they happen in life. They're just setbacks all the time. But I think about often when you were talking, I was thinking about like when my mom was going through her journey of being extremely sick, and it was coming to the end, and then the end did come. The darkness that came over us, it's a different darkness, right? It's a different space of like, I've been at the part of the no Olympics, and then I've been at this part, but there's a lot of similarities in it because there's a choice. I can for the rest of my life choose to be angry at God, angry at whatever it is that you believe, or angry at how could something so awful happen to someone so nice. I could be resentful for the rest of my life. Like, I could also be, woe, poor me, like, for the rest of my life, like I don't have my mom at young 29 years of age. And also I had lost so much of myself in that whole journey of no longer exercising, like just losing such a big part of me, that I also went through this dark period where my mindset and my setback was like, well, are you going to allow this to define you? Essentially, like, are you going to, because there's going to be more things, like there's going to be more setbacks like this, and maybe even bigger, like who knows what's coming for me and my husband and my family. But am I going to allow this to be my defining moment on how I'm going to take care of my own health, how my mindset is going to be, how I'm going to allow myself to like feel sorry for myself, for my whole positive, upbeat, like persona to disappear because I have a reason for it to be. It's very similar, whilst it's obviously different. It's the choices that you get to make in setbacks, and it doesn't mean that you don't have very, very dark days or dark times, but it comes to a point where you have to make the decision of, is the setback going to define me, or am I going to spring back from it? And I feel like whilst some people might not be able to relate to missing out on an Olympics or relate to losing a parent or whatever, I think there's setbacks with being fired from jobs, from leaving jobs. There's setbacks from relationship stuff. Like, I mean, I often hear other people's stories of like people just upping and leaving them after like 10 years. And I can't even begin to imagine what that must be like. Same thing, right? This darkness that must just overcloud you and overshadow you. And the period in that darkness, and then what you decide to do to claw yourself out from that. I think a lot of how you spring back from setbacks can define your outlook and your persona on life.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I just want to jump in quickly. I think
This is the quietest you've ever been.
it is, but I've been so inspired by you two. So inspired by you two. No, but I think I know it's a bit of a cliche, but one, we are all way more resilient than we think we are. And you were talking about it now that it could define the rest of your life. But I think and I'm not going to get into mine because there's no point really right now. But having my setbacks, having made the similar decisions that you guys are talking about, having had conversations with myself, I feel like the resilience factor became easier
for
over
sure.
time.
For sure.
So like setback number one, like hard, really hard. Setback number two and setback number three. If you train your mind to make that decision that you know is best for you, it gets easier.
Completely.
And that's at least it's a massive silver lining in terms of like when you're in that dark space. Like people often say to me, but like bro, or mate, how do you like, you know, it's one thing just saying it, but like are you actually believing that, you know? And you have to really believe it from within, like deep inside you.
I've always said like fake it till you make it. I've said it before, and actually on Saturday we were at the beach, and the most amazing woman, Tanya, she was walking with me, and I'd never met her before, and she said, how are you so happy all the time? And I said, well, firstly, I'm not so happy all the time, but I also said that every day that you wake up you get to make a choice. And I know that some days it's harder than others, and some days you wake up tired, or like, you know, you haven't had a lot of sleep, or you've had a lot of rubbish happen to you, or you feel in this cloud. And there are days where I'm super grumpy, like for sure. But every single morning when I wake up, whether I've had the worst sleep of my life, the best sleep of my life, that very first, like, kind of get out of bed, like, what is my attitude going to be for the day? It took me a while to realize that actually I get to control that. Yeah. And I think oftentimes we let our situations and our circumstances control our attitudes. You know,
I was going to say exactly that. Like, it's such a cliche, especially in sport. I think control the controllables. But I think it's important to realize that there's going to be stuff that you can't control that do bring you sadness, do bring you anger, do bring you frustration. But if you just not forget about them, but you can't change that. So if you can control the things you can change, your mindset then shifts. And similar to what you were saying when you wake up, it sounds very morbid, but you say you only live once. No, you only die once. So make the most of that life, because like we don't know how long. Like it's very deep and sad, but the reality is that try to live every day like focusing on being happy, making people around you happy, being a good person, and you can't go too far wrong. Like I feel like a lot of things are out of our hands, but control that bit, and then it's going to be better.
Yeah, I think as well that it's just to frame it slightly differently, because a lot of people that I've spoken to have not an issue with it, but like they're like, it's not that easy. It's not that simple.
Oh my gosh, I live with that. I live with that for sure.
It's not that easy to just make the choice. Oh yeah, I make the choice. But the way I frame it to myself sometimes is also because I get, we wake up on days and we're tired, exactly like you said. But you can also frame it differently by saying like, what are your intentions? And like you can set an intention for the smallest of things.
100%.
And I talk about this like all the time with my one-on-one clients, but like it's actually comes from a book from a New Zealand rugby team, most successful team of all time in any sport, by the way. Yeah, and they talk about setting intentions, but like there was a podcast off the back of the book, and they were saying like it can be as small as making a bed.
Completely.
Like, I love that bed is going to be the best bed I've ever made. You know what I mean? And like if you do that on a constant basis, like yes, it sounds trivial in the beginning. It's like that's so lame, that wasn't worth it. But you've just accomplished something, and that's a big tip. And then you're setting yourself up throughout the day, and then you can take that into your life and apply it throughout the course of the day. But for those of you because I struggled initially with the choice thing, when someone said to me, just choose, be like choice.
Jeremy struggles with that as well.
And I was like, well, no, that doesn't work for me. And then someone was like, well, frame it differently, set your intentions properly for the day. And that's also a way of looking at it.
Completely.
You have days as well where the choice is easy, right? So you wake up and you're like, this is going to be great. that choice is easy, and then you're like, how can I take a backward step? And suddenly I'm moping around. And we've spoken about it, I think, on a few lives as well. And it's also that mindset that when we speak about doing like a savage session, or you're like, instead of being like, oh, come on, you're like, no, I'm in a privileged position that I get the opportunity to do this. So one of my teammates said it, and she said it so beautifully. I won't be able to, but I was so inspired afterwards. She's like, yeah, when I have running sessions at home, I think, no, I don't moan. I'm like, I am so privileged to be able to go outside, to do this run, that I'm going to absolutely smash it and give everything. And it is, and those battles will continue, it'll keep happening, but if you keep having that ground roots that you can go back to, it makes things a lot easier.
100%. I'd love for, like, in closing, I would love for, if you feel comfortable, to share your spring back from a setback story. I think it could be quite powerful, and you can use the hashtag spring back from setback, but everyone has had their own stories. I see Lauren said she lost both of her parents within 3 months of each other, and then close behind 3 friends. Like, holy hell is the first thing that I say. But then, like, Lauren's way of potentially springing back from a setback might be different to the way that we would have done it as well. Like, there's so many different ways to spring back from setbacks. And so I think it could be quite powerful if on our Jeff Together page, we had a whole bunch of spring back from setback stories, because I think that oftentimes people feel like they're alone. It's something that I've realized. I feel like oftentimes in people's setbacks or in people's struggles, they feel alone, and there's so much power in vulnerability and power in sharing. And I think often when we do have these moments, and they're not often that we come to these deeper issues in Jeff, where when we do ask people to share, it's like the floodgates open, because other people are able to see, I'm not alone here. Like, I'm also struggling at the moment, or I've also had to overcome these setbacks, and this is how I sprung back. And maybe someone reads that's in the depths of their own setback. And by reading your story or listening to this, it makes them realize that they don't have to be consumed by the darkness, and that they can actually spring back. And if you are in that time right now, I just want you to know you're not alone. You don't even know what each 3 of us are going through personally, or at work, or in sport, or in our lives. And by you sharing your stories, maybe it allows us to relate as well. And so it would be really cool to see on Jeff Together. Maybe I'll ask Amy to kick us off after this, and she'll share on the Jeff Together her spring back from a setback story, and then I can follow suit. And if we just flood our Jeff Together page today with our spring back from a setback stories, I think it could be quite powerful.
I've already got the picture I'm posting with it.
She has the picture. She's got the picture ready. But I just think that it's really important to have conversations like this every now and again, to let you know that we all struggle, and we all struggle with our own different setbacks, whether they be relationships and work or whatever it is, and that life is going to continue to throw those at you in different stages. And like Greg says, resilience just becomes a little bit easier each time. But also I think sharing with a community like this one that's so supportive and so kind allows us to not feel like we're so alone in those setbacks, or maybe you're in that right now. And so it's so cool to be able to have an open discussion in our lounge over here. I've always wanted dumbbells on my table in my lounge. But anything else from you guys?
I just want to say a little bit on that as well, because I think one of the things I struggled with initially was like my setback was so, like, it wasn't like, in terms of like you instantly compare yourself to other people, and I was always like, oh, there's somebody in a far worse position, like you losing your mum. In relative terms, like that's exactly
right. Your mountains are different.
So when people
different.
come to share, please don't think, oh, but this person's had more struggle, more.
No.
That's not doesn't exist.
It's not about that. At the time, that's when you feel low.
Yeah.
You only can base it on your experience. A bit like when we're working out, it's you versus you. It's about you. So please don't think I'm not going to share actually because this seems silly.
It's literally one of the first things I learned when I was going into therapy, and she was like, absolutely, your mountain is your mountain.
100%.
Like, it doesn't matter. You don't compare someone's like whatever, you know.
You can't, and you can't as well, because also like I said, it's not like you get one setback in your life. Wouldn't that be nice? Like it's one setback and done. It's like there's also different phases. Like with my mom, that was my setback. But then like literally 2 years later, it became like a Swimming South Africa, big, huge setback for me. And then now I might find myself in a different one. Like I just feel like in the moment and what you're dealing with and what life is throwing at you, it can completely rock your world regardless. And so I think
it's not just there, it's not just on the community, but I would encourage people as well to lean on anyone,
100%.
your loved ones. So it doesn't just have to be on the Jeff community. Like lean on your loved ones. I lean on Anne all the time, literally, because I'm taller than but it speaks exactly to that, leaning on people and sharing, because the more open we are about this stuff, the easier it's going to become.
100%.
And you never know who, like Greg and I have known each other for just over a year, and genuinely, like agony aren't here. Like I think you never know who that person is coming around the corner that could also be that person that changes your life, in a sense, gives you that freedom to open up.
100%.
So don't think that it has to be
you used
someone.
to spam that expression?
What did I say?
Agony aunt.
Agony. Oh, do you not have that?
No, I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. Agony aunt is like.
Yeah, I was like, oh yes.
So like when you must have like magazines and stuff when you're a kid, and there's like that page where people write in. Your agony aunt is the person who like responds to all of the.
Ours was like it was on the U in the U magazine.
You're my agony aunt.
Yes, I'm gonna cry. Being emotional today.
Me too.
Oh.
I know. Team, we're gonna end on agony aunt. On that note, we love you so much. All the comments have been so epic. Amy is gonna start us off with her spring back from the setback story, and then if you feel comfortable, you feel open, or you feel like you want to share yours, that could be amazing. But we love you. We're sending you guys so much love from our families to your families. Amy will be live on telly or live in Cape Town on Friday, so make sure you tune in. And we are wishing her and sending her all and her team just the most amazing journey, a journey of health, a journey of 0 injuries, and a journey of potential lifting that cup above the head, no pressure at all. And from Greg and I'm going to be donning. I just want to say as well, Louis and I are going to be donning. Like
UK.
Well, we did work out in
England jerseys, team. That's how far I'm going. And I said it. I've said it like to my. Well, can't say to my grave because I'm still alive. But I've said it with stoic nature that I will never support England. But this is different. So come on, guys.
Barmy Army.
Yeah, Barmy Army.
Barmy Army. Team, we love you. We'll see you again soon. From us to you, we're saying toodaloo and goodbye.
Variations and static squats, bar low impact variations. 3, 2, 1, time on.